In this episode, we're going to expose a secret for our viewers. Now, you might wonder why, when you go into a Rolex AD Boutique, they have so many risky dates on show and so little Rolex sports stock. The Rolex 70/30 rule states that for every 70 non-steel sports watches sold by an authorized dealer, such as the date-only Oyster Perpetual, Rolex will issue 30 sports watches. Now we're going to break down and explain what these authorized dealers must do and what standards they must follow in order to be the go-to company for these hot manufacturers. Something you should know is that any Rolex authorized dealer must sign a contract with Rolex as well as Rolex distribution agreement, which spells out what a dealer may and, perhaps more importantly, cannot do. But what exactly is contained in this enigmatic agreement? Let's get this discussion off to a good start. Official Rolex retailers are ideally qualified to assist you through the spectrum of available models, advise you on the technical elements of our watches, and help you in making the choice that will last for a lifetime since they have the requisite expertise, skills, and technical know-how. Rolex designates official Rolex retailers, or ORR, and allows it a non-exclusive license to acquire and resell Rolex goods at retail. Rolex reserves the right to appoint more ORRs regardless of their location. The ORR would then agree to offer Rolex products in a way that is compatible with the Rolex name, high standards, goodwill, and renowned reputation. Rolex has agreed to sell new Rolex goods solely to jewelers or official Rolex jewelers, ORJs. In accordance with the provisions of their agreement, Rolex may terminate the approved status of one or more sites without affecting the status of the jeweler's other authorized locations. Your authorized dealer needs to follow a precise order process when it comes to acquiring allocations and purchasing pieces from Rolex Direct. They put everything in order for Rolex as a manufacturer every year, and Rolex may decide what it offers to your authorized dealer at its exclusive discretion. So, what does this mean? It means you're at the mercy of seeing what your authorized dealer can get each year, and they're at the mercy of deciding who gets those allocations. Actually, about Waitlist, just because you're on one doesn't mean you can't get bumped up, especially if you're someone who spent a lot of money or is perceived as a high-value client. So if you're on a waitlist, consider the waiting as non-existent. Rolex basically ships what they want and when they want. In general, your AD cannot predict which watches will be sent to them exactly. Whatever Rolex sends, the AD has to buy, and it is then their business to try and sell the stock. This process repeats itself at regular intervals throughout the year. So when you ask your authorized dealer what they're getting in for their Rolex stocks, they actually have no idea until it arrives. What's even more interesting and bizarre is that Rolex determines the allocation once the merchandise has been shipped and landed. And there is no issue or rebuttal for them not being able to follow through on supply. There are no repercussions. Rolex doesn't have to fulfill orders. It doesn't have to do anything. And it's just difficult for your authorized dealer. In essence, your authorized dealer doesn't know what they're going to get until those orders arrive. So calling ahead of time and trying to get promises actually doesn't work. So, if your authorized dealer purchases 2 ceramic Daytonas and 10 Everose Presidents but doesn't receive any of them, back orders are canceled. By the way, if you want to know something else, let us know your thoughts through the comment section below. Spanning to the rules of retail sales, MSO retail sales is all about confining and controlling the distribution channel. And Rolex wants to control the distribution channel when they're dealing with their authorized dealers. So, what does retail sales only mean? It means that your authorized dealer, or your ORJ, is only allowed to sell timepieces as MSRP, or manufacturer's suggested retail price. And if they try to sell above MSRP, it's literally an infringement on the contract, and they risk having their badge revoked. Now, this second point is a significant sticking point out of this agreement for people who have signed the retail sales exclusively. There's been a lot of tension. Now take a note of this. since this is a direct quote from the actual agreement with Rolex and an official AD. I quote, "Jeweler agrees to stock a designated basic stock plan at all times year-round. Rolex, after consultation with jeweler, will select a basic stock plan, commensurate with jeweler's sale potential. Drawn from all current Rolex lines for each authorized location, it is expressly understood that compliance with this provision is mandatory to retain continued status as an ORJ. Jeweler agrees to allow Rolex personnel to take a complete inventory of all Rolex products in jeweler's possession and to review Rolex sales and warranty records on reasonable oral notice." End quote. If this standard provision is still in effect today, Rolex can check inventory with its AD. In that instance, if Rolex genuinely wanted to verify if its authorized dealers were stocking their vaults with rare models, Rolex would be contractually permitted to go look at the stock at the dealers, according to the provision above. They also envision the possibility to inspect the sales and warranty data in above-mentioned case. It's reasonable to think that this provides ample ammunition to tackle the industry's alleged malpractices. Next fact that may seem a little bizarro for you. Rolex has the authoritative right to be the sole repurchaser of the timepieces they allocated to the ORJ or AD, which means that if a dealer wants to go out of business, stop selling Rolexes, quit, or go bankrupt, they can't sell those pieces to third parties or out in the market. This is how Rolex keeps such a tight grip on the market and doesn't let these pieces go shooting out into the secondary market. Rolex would then have to purchase them back if an authorized dealer sells them to a third party, which they may, since they've broken the contract and have to pay damages for the price they were charged for those Rolexes. Lo and behold, Rolex has the right to terminate the contract and distribution agreement with any official Rolex jeweler or authorized dealer for any reason it sees fit. Some of the main reasons they may do has something to do with trans-shipping, where they are selling to gray market or other people in the secondary market who are not retail, or it could have to do with simply not following the requisitions. The relationship and guidelines that Rolex has are such high quality that it could be anything from bankruptcy to an authorized dealer wanting to transfer set inventory and business to another business entity through acquisition, and so much more. The rules are a huge list of things to keep airtight and keep the value consistently holding and rising. Sure, there is good and bad in this procedure, and these are the restrictions that they must follow. Other brands, including Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe, have similar distribution agreements, but Rolex is the most well known for being this way. Now that concludes our episode. We hope we're able to give answers to your questions about the real deal behind Rolex authorized dealers. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel to give you the latest updates on Rolex. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you in our next video above first class.